I'm here with the new VHT, VVV Bulldog. Based on the VHT Pittbull, it's quite a versatile amp, and it has been faithfully modeled by Audio Assault. It's got a lot of features, a lot of versatility, and that is important. In my last video, I was doing an amp sim shootout and concluded that all amp sims are the same. Not exactly, but that is sort of the gist of it. The nice thing about this one, I think, is that it has a lot of tonal shaping options right on the amp, which not all do. So it's a little different from some other amp sims, and I think it's quite nice. I like the sound. Alex from Audio Assault says he thinks it's the most realistic amp sim he's ever made. So I'm just going to do a quick little walkthrough because it's fairly similar to all their plugins, and if you haven't got anything from Audio Assault, well, you should. And they're very cheap, so definitely worth it. Anyways, it's got a lot of features, and they're pretty similar to the other amps. We've got a tuner here to start out with. It's a little unusual. Slightly different design than most tuners, but it works just fine. I have no problem with it. We've got the stop box section here, which this is kind of new for Audio Assault. It's pretty much the same kind of pedals, but new skins at least. And we've got a noise gate here, the low-high booster that's in all the plugins, and then a tube screamer, which again is pretty standard for their stuff, pretty standard for a lot of amp sim suites. It works well, no problem there. Here is the default tone. This is just the startup tone. I have not touched anything. So it's not super high gain, not super interesting right off the bat, but we can fix that, and there are a lot of options here which I'm going to go over. The effects section, it's got the graphic EQ, delay, and reverb. I like all these plugins, as they're identical as far as I know to the other amps. They all look the same, so these are nice. Let's take a look. First of all, we've got our gain here. Of course, I'm on the lead channel. There's a normal and high gain switch down here. It's a very rock and roll amp. It's got a little bit of kind of 80s character, I guess, to it, which I really like. There's an edge switch here, which I think adds kind of a little brightness to the top end. It's subtle, but it gives it a little sparkle, I guess. Volume knob. This, I'm not sure. Well, this is for balancing out the two channels, which is nice. The master volume should be in more control of the power amp section, and that by default is up a little bit, so I guess it sounds better there. These controls here, the gain and volume, are for the lead channel. Then we have the rhythm channel here, which also has a boost on the gain and this same edge switch. Now I'm not sure if the lead and the rhythm channels are really voiced differently. Let's just set them the same and see if there's any noticeable difference between them. So there's definitely a difference between the lead and the rhythm channels. Not sure if that's just a gain thing or if there's some real EQ difference. The rhythm definitely is a little lower gain, so maybe I'll try boosting that up a bit. Well, they sound pretty similar. There might be some slight EQ differences. They are both controlled by the same 3-band EQ here. Also has this edge, a mid shift, which is pretty cool. Let's check that out. You can hear the mid shift gives it more of an upper mid bark and bite to it. The clean channel also has pretty similar controls here. We've got a boost on it, a bright switch for the treble, and the same mid shift. like this clean channel. It naturally has a bit of compression, even though there isn't a compressor in this amp. Already sounds fairly compressed. It doesn't really have a ton of breakup, even with the volume cranked all the way up. It does have this little layer of distortion on top, which is nice. In this case, it's pleasant. I'm pretty picky about clean channels. Sometimes if they're crackly sounding, I'm not really a fan. This is a little bit fuzzy on the top, but I don't mind that. In fact, I kind of like that. It gives it a little touch of something so it's not quite so dry. It does sound pretty compressed, but again, I like that. I like running a compressor on a clean channel. Let's just dial in a quick tone here, and I'm gonna set up Tube Screamer, kind of standard configuration here. I don't usually use the booster, though it can be useful sometimes. The Tube Screamer is nice. I do typically use that on, well, most high gain amps. Gotta say, I really like how the gain sounds and feels on this amp. It's quite nice. It feels thick and smooth, but not fizzy and not cheap. Now the mid shift in solo like this, I don't like as much, but in a mix you may find that that helps just bring the guitars forward. If they're getting too buried, that could be useful. I also like that by default this doesn't really sound too woofy and boomy. Some amp sims have a lot of cab resonance or depth that can be too much, and this doesn't really have an overwhelming amount, so I like that. And just like that, I clipped the track. To me, that's really enough. It can be fun to play with more, but in a mix, you usually don't want it. When you really crank the presence, there's some nastiness in there, but a little bit goes a long way. Now, it's got a little graphic EQ right here, which is cool. There is the other one in the effects section, but it's cool to have it on the front here. The frequency ranges are a little bit different than the effects rack EQ. I assume this EQ is after the preamp, but it's before the power amp, so it may saturate the power amp differently. And this is something that's on the real amp and also on some of the various Mesa Mark III, Mark IV and stuff. Well, I like that. Everything here, I have no problems with it. Let's check out the delay and the reverb real quick. These are the same as in the other Audio Assault plugins, but I quite like them. They're nice effects. Good to have them on hand. So we're going to have a video coming up on making your own impulses, and I actually have a VHT cab back there, so here are some I recorded with that cab. Let's have a listen and see how they sound with this. Well, those actually pair up really nicely, and kind of like different ones with this than the ones I was favoring on different amp, but that's just how IRs go. Sometimes your favorite one doesn't work on every amp, or you just have to dial in the amp more. Anyways, that about wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed this. This is a really nice amp sim, and one I'm definitely going to recommend. If you don't have anything from Audio Assault, this is a great place to start, even though the IRs are not released yet. They will be soon. The amp has a lot of features and a lot of versatility, and it really does clean tones and edge of breakup, lighter gain stuff really well as high gain. It's a nice, smooth, clean kind of high gain. Not the raunchiest, but it's a nice, silky high gain. I like it quite a bit. The real amp is great too, and from my experience playing it, this feels and sounds a lot like the real thing. So, good job to Alex, and keep up the good work. I'm enjoying everything you're putting out. So anyways, that's it for me. Like and subscribe. See you in the next one.